Hi folks, this is Sarah Marshall, your operations architect, and this is episode 12 of our leadership dispatch series. And this is part 2 of the leadership models. In our last episode, we discussed leadership models that index strongly on people. In this episode, we are going to look at ones that index on in other areas, including outcomes, controls, and context. And we're going to put it kind of all together at the end so you have a way to think about this. The models we're going to look at this time are the transactional leadership model, authoritative leadership, hierarchical leadership, situational leadership, and transformational leadership. And this is in order of simplest to use and understand to most challenging and dynamic. And at the end of this, like I said, we will look at what does it mean to mix or change these models. Let's look at the transactional model first. And this is pretty straightforward. Employee or the participants in this model, their expectations are set by a leader, and the leader tells them what's expected in terms of outcomes and performance behavior. And if they do well on that, then they get rewarded. If they don't do well on that, they get punished. There is consequences in this model. And you can see it strongly indexes on outcomes, where you're assigned that particular outcome and expected to deliver on that outcome. And then high in controls in that you're expected to work within the model to deliver as to expectations, whether a day, a week, a month, or a quarter. This tends to be a short-term focused model. You are given your assignments and then expected to deliver on them in a turnaround period. Again, within clear criteria for rewards and punishments. And this is often applied to structured environments with well-defined tasks and role, like the military, finance organizations, manufacturing settings. If you go to a McDonald's, they are very much in this model where you do a certain job, you're expected to perform a certain way and deliver a certain outcome with a certain behavior with customers. And if you do all that well, you get paid and you get promoted. And if you don't do well, then things don't go well for you. The pros are it's a clear structure and expectations. Again, effectively short-term goals, so a day, week, month, year, or excuse me, not a year, month, quarter. Usually that's as long as the commitments are made in this model, and then you'll get a new assignment and a next assignment, et cetera, et cetera. This is easy to implement, easy to manage, but it can stifle creativity. This is not a model designed to have people think out of the box. You're expected to get on the track and go down the track the way it's designed, and which can also lead to lack of motivation and not getting your needs met as an employee or a person in the model. It's a low inspiration, high authority model. You can read more about that in defining transactional leadership in the WGU blog. Authoritative leadership model or autocratic model developed by Daniel Goleman in 2002. You have a specific leader that is authoritative and confident and visionary, and they lay out their expectations for you, and your job is to follow. It's great for situations requiring clear direction, vision, especially when the organization lacks focus or is in turnaround. But it's also great for, let's say you're at a fire or at a police emergency or in a military conflict. You want somebody in the moment that can take charge, tell people what to do, and move teams around to ensure that everybody's safe while they're dealing with the crisis at hand. The pros are clear direction and vision, can quickly mobilize a team and align a team. Like I said, it's great for a crisis and inspires confidence of the followers, but it can be perceived as too controlling and inflexible. Definitely will stifle creativity and innovation and create dependency on the leader to be told what to do. Again, low inspiration, high authority model. You can read more. What is an autocratic leader at NSLS blog. The next model is the hierarchical leadership model. This designs that broad organizational structure around a leader, and it tends to map down into layers. It's a very traditional model, really, rooted in military and religious institutions. It's been used for literally thousands of years, and it's based on a clear chain of command where decisions and authority flow from top to bottom. The leaders at each level have a certain delegated authority over their subordinates, and they report to the higher level leaders with what's going on. This is almost anybody listening to this blog has had some experience with this kind of a model, one way or another. The common in large organizations to keep them organized. It's great for military because not only do you have those moments where you need an authority to tell you what to do, but you have a broader planning organization that layers out the various pieces and parts to the various levels of the organization. Command and control structure. It's a clear structure. It will define your role, define your lane. It's efficient for decision making because the decisions are delegated or they sit at the top. And it's easy to control, maintain and control and enforce policies because you know where everybody sits in the hierarchy. The con is, again, stifles innovation and creativity, may lead to disengagement among the lower level employees because they just are doers in this model. And it's a slow decision-making process because the information has to flow up through the layers and then decisions flow down through the layers. So it can be a little of a behemoth if you're trying to get things done. Another low inspiration, high authority model. And it's you can read more about that in the Hierarchical Organization Structure and Leadership Oxford Research. This situation leadership model is where we start to build some complexity into it. It emphasizes leadership flexibility in terms of you provide a different kind of leadership style to each of the kinds of people you're working with. For folks that are newer, younger, inexperienced, they have low competence, you have a high commitment to them, so you provide a lot of direction. As they develop, they move into more of a coaching model where you give them a little latitude, give them some coaching. That's lower commitment for the leader. It also allows some flexibility for people that are developing their competencies. As they get into a moderate to high level of competence, the leader model can refocus itself on providing support when needed, but a fair amount of latitude to get their work done. And so you only pull in as requested. As the leader, you only get pulled in as requested. And then this high competency very much can work on their own folks. These folks require almost no support or very low support, not much in the way of directive, just let them go do their thing and check in on them to make sure that they're delivering what they committed to. It both has high people indexing and high context indexing in terms of the changing situation dictates where you're going to sit in the model and how the leader needs to engage you, but it's very much towards an outcome as well. So it covers a lot of ground. It's medium inspiration, medium authority, but you can see some of the previous models that we've talked about kind of fall into these buckets here, so that you're using, in essence, different models depending on the person you're working with. It emphasizes flexibility. You can adjust very quickly as the situation changes, and it's applied across a wide range of industries, particularly with diverse skill sets and experience levels. In a dynamic environment, you got to keep them going all at the level they can operate. So the pros are it's highly adaptable, and it differs from team to team's needs, and encourages leadership development because you can develop your leaders through this process, and it can improve productivity because you're operating at the level that you can. The cons are it requires a leader to be highly perceptive and adaptable. So you just can't sit in one model. You have to adjust yourself constantly, and can be inconsistent if you're not managed well. You might manage some of the areas more poorly than others. You really have to be on your game to use this model. This is a model I've used a lot, um, but it requires a facile leader that can shift quickly. You can read more about the situational leadership model and what is a situation leadership model by Hershey and Blanchard in their Centers for Leadership Studies. The last model we're going to talk about here, developed in the late 70s by McGregor, is called the Transformational Leadership model, and it's a model focused on change. So it focuses on inspiring and motivating folks to a particular outcome, a specific outcome, and so you are providing everything that the followers need in order to understand the vision, to understand the change and their part in the change, and to help innovate as you understand the needs of that change. Leaders engaged in this create a strong sense of purpose and direction. And this is, as a transformation leader in organizations, this is a model I'm quite familiar with. It's best applied in organizations undergoing significant change. And that's usually when I am pulled into an organization, they are going through significant change and I am supporting that effort. It's commonly used among many industries, in many markets, and so you can use this in just about any environment. It increases employee engagement and morale. It encourages innovation and creative thinking, and effective in driving long-term success. But it can lead to employee burnout if you're focused on some big outcome you're trying to achieve. You're leaping the gap from where you are to where you need to be. It can definitely cause burnout as people are trying to work towards that big change event, and requires somebody who's charismatic. Not that I'm highly charismatic, but I can engender confidence and I can provide a clear direction, and that's what people need when you're going through a high flex change. May not be effective in a very structured environment because this model is built for managing change. If you're a routine environment, you're not going to see a lot of change, so it won't make much sense. But it hits a lot of points here. It's very focused on an outcome. It's attentive to people and people's needs to get that outcome, and the changing environment within which building that outcome. There are controls, but those controls are built as a bridge from where you are to where you need to be. So they are temporary in nature, project plans, et cetera, et cetera. These kinds of controls, they expire, but they are there for the purpose of supporting the change. All right, can you change a model or can you mix a model? The short answer is yes, you absolutely can. And you can even see within the models, the last two models, there are elements of other models within them. But more specifically, if you're in an organization that is changing, let's say you are going through transformation and you're moving into a more static situation, you're probably going to want to change the leadership model so that you're focused on delivering to that situation. But if you do that, you want to make sure that you identify the best fit model, and then ensure that you provide change management, because people will be very confused when you change the model if you don't walk them through it. What about a mixed model? Well, in almost every large organization you're going to be in, you'll find a lot of mixed models. Like you may be in an organization with a hierarchical model to manage from the top, but you may have other models that are better fitting specific areas. For example, if you're in an R&D organization, you may have more of a laissez-faire model because most of those people are going to be highly capable, autonomous folks that don't need a lot of oversight. Whereas if you're working in a call center, you might be leaning towards a transactional model because you want your folks to be operating to specific performance targets. So, what have we gotten out of all this? Well, we've gone through the 5 most popular leadership models that are not people indexed specifically. Those are Transactional Leadership Model, Authoritative Leadership Model, Hierarchical Leadership Model, Situational, and transformational leadership models. We discussed how to change models and that you can use mixed models in your organization dependent on how you structure. And we know that the short answer to all that is yes, you can. Use the models as you need to be most effective in your organization. When you change leadership models, change to one that's appropriate for your future. The future state that you understand, and then bring people through the process of change management. And then you know that different leadership models can coexist within the same organization as long as they don't conflict with each other. They have to work in tandem, otherwise they don't work at all. And if you want to read more about leadership or any of my articles, go to www.operations-architect.com. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great rest of your day, and as always, feedback is quite welcome. Thank you.